Get on the ground now.
Me?
No, not you. Back up. Go to the side. You on the ground. Get on the ground now. Move aside. Get on the ground or you will be tased. Back away. Get on the ground now. Get on the ground.
Fucking shit. You
Golf
motherfuckers.
one taste. Get on the ground or you'll be tased too.
Fucking do it, bitch.
Down. What'd I do? What'd I do?
We'll be out. Do not move.
What'd I do?
Don't move. It doesn't matter. Shut up.
Yes, it does.
It's not up to you.
What'd I do?
Do not move again or I will give you 2 again.
We're really here to protect and serve.
Shut up. This is not about you.
What'd I do?
You have a
What's
warrant.
he being arrested for?
That's not your business.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's all my business.
Stop moving or I will tase you again. Do not move. I will tase you again.
Fuck you.
Stop moving. Don't move. Well, if you keep moving, no, shut up or you will get tased again.
No, you shut the fuck. Get off the fuck of my head, dude.
Wolford, huh?
What's your name?
Hi there, my name is Kerry Martell, editor of the Yamhill Advocate, an independent newspaper that does investigative journalism about matters of importance to Yamhill County, Oregon, with a large focus lately on my hometown, Newberg, Oregon. The clip that you just watched is of a police officer by the name of James Wolford, who currently works in the Sherwood Police Department as a school resource officer. He also is a candidate this election season for the Newberg School Board district seat, running against the incumbent Dave Brown. Why am I showing you this video footage? Well, you know, there's a lot of things that people can say about me. Some people call me a bully. Some people think I'm an amazing journalist. Some people think I'm even a living legend. But what you can't say about me is that I've ever been accused of using unnecessary or excessive force and falsifying a police report, but the same cannot be said of James Wolford, you see. Let me back up a little bit here. Most people who are following the Yamhill Advocate know that a particular focus of my investigation has been on a group called Progressive Yamhill. They are a extremist social activist group, and I don't say that hyperbolous, okay? This is a factually true statement. People that support violence, people that support extremely unethical and illegal tactics to win elections, they're extremists, okay? Now, I have been referred to as an alt-right blogger by specifically the Newberg Graphic in a recent article by Gary Allen that covers James Wolford deciding to drop out of the election, although it turns out legally he can't drop out because there's a deadline. So Wolford's still on the ticket, and in fact his campaign managers already have a new campaign going, a hashtag called James Anyway, for people to vote for James Wolford anyway, even though he has declared that he was trying to drop out at least from the race. You still can vote for him. He could still be elected, even though he declared that he's not going to run anymore. Weirdly enough, in Oregon, the Democrats who control the state, have had a monopoly over the state, have written the rules so that it's not a false statement if somebody accepts winning a race that they already declared that they were dropping out of. What a weird situation that is. The important thing here is this. James Wolford is a member of the Progressive Yamhill group, which, as I have shown in previous articles, which you should definitely read on the digital version of the Yamhill Advocate website, which are free to read, by the way. He is part of a group that is anti-police, anti-democracy in very many sense of the word, since you have members such as Guadalupe Martinez Zapata, who, by the way, is also the chair of the Oregon Board of Education, talking about the United States dismantling it and comparing it even to a bad car that you should just abandon and replace. This is the social activist group that James Wolford is part of, just FYI, okay? I've covered Progressive Yamhill in depth in many articles. They are an extremist group, period. This is not a opinion. This really is a factual statement. They are extremist people. The idea that it's a good thing to dismantle the United States government is a pretty extreme idea. Okay, I have been falsely accused of being an alt-right blogger because I dared to investigate the truth about James Wolford and other powerful players who are members of the Democrat Party in this state, who are desperate to take back control over the Newberg School Board because it's this little pocket of resistance near Portland where, conservatives have taken majority over the school board. They have driven out the critical race theory advocates, those pushing for the gender identity politics in the schools, those who have been trying to bankrupt the school with lawsuits and all kinds of other shenanigans that I'll get into in future articles. Some people might have heard about the TikTok school counselors in Oregon who flipped the bird at parents. I'm the one that broke that story. That happened here in Newberg. So the group they are the alt-left, if you will. And really what I am is I'm a politically moderate person who, has been a Democrat voter, but the Democrat Party has gone in such a direction I cannot follow it, which is why it's very important to be able to talk about truth and talk about who are the real people who are trying to gaslight and trick voters in this state so that you will elect them into positions and not elect people who are maybe actually far more suitable for the roles. James Wolford makes posts, and he does this often, virtue signaling to his friends in the Progressive Yamhill group and also public, the voters, about how he's so against police brutality and how he does this and that and blah, 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 and bad-mouthing other officers and other situations. Okay, you can see the posts I put up on this video. This is something that he does. But he also lies about his own past. Let me give you a direct quote here. James Wolford made a post on his campaign Facebook page, James Wolford for Newberg School Board, which said, "I was informed by my employer yesterday that Kerry Martell and his publication, the Yamhill Advocate, had filed multiple public records requests in what appears to be an effort to try and, quote, dig up dirt to discredit me." I don't know why he put it in quotes because I never said that. But continuing on Wolford's statement. He says, "This is not the first time he has attempted to harass me at work. Apparently, filing public records requests is harassment." Continuing on what he says, Wolford says, "A little over a month ago, the day I filed for candidacy with the county clerk, Martell filed a defamatory, false, and frivolous complaint against me at work. The focus of Martell's complaint were accusations of me being part of a, quote, mafia, among other ridiculous things. He ended his complaint with what could reasonably be construed as a threat that if I did not withdraw my candidacy, he would drag me through the mud." This is a false statement that Wolford has made. I never once said anything even remotely related to that or implied that. What I actually did was file a complaint against Wolford for falsely accusing me of a crime and using his position as a police officer to lend credibility to that accusation. What crime in particular? It's related to something that's also on this same YouTube channel for the Yamhill Advocate page. I did an article about. I recorded a public official of the city of Newberg, Elise Holloman, at a public meeting. And I published that audio after the meeting. And she tried to have me arrested for that, which was illegal. It's a violation of First Amendment rights. It's not consistent with the recording laws here in Oregon. She still tried to, and the Yamhill County Sheriff, deputy did come and say that they were going to arrest me. Didn't happen. You can see the rest of that in the backstory. But as part of that, apparently a lot of people found out about this, and they then lodged complaints. Some of them allegedly made harassing statements, left on voicemails for the city of Newberg, sent emails or something of that nature. And Wolford claims that I have organized this. I'm responsible for this. Just as Elise Holloman and many other people in town who are part of this progressive Yamhill nonsense, this little mafia. It really is kind of a mafia if you think about it. They're intentionally lying, they use unethical practices, and they do it for power over other people, right? As far as I'm concerned, that's a mafia. So this is a lie. I never did that, and you can see that I never did that because I've published in the article, the actual article, which is linked in this video description here, the actual complaint that I filed with the police department against Wolford for doing that. Continue on to Wolford's statements here. Newberg ought to be the kind of place where someone can run for a nonpartisan district office without having his or her character assassinated, where city councilors can do their jobs without death threats. Since the summer of 2021, that has ceased to be the case, and the vitriol and division that has gripped our town lately is one of the things I'm hoping to change with my candidacy. Now, I would say to that that's exactly right. It should be a place where people can run for candidacy, not be harassed. Unlike the neighbor of Dave Brown, who openly posts on Facebook that she intentionally puts up flags in her yard with the specific purpose of harassing Dave Brown, who James Wolford is running against. In fact, on the posts on James Wolford's campaign page, this neighbor of Dave Brown gloats openly about how she's gotten signs for Jane Wolford's campaign and put them specifically in view of Dave Brown's house so that he will see them, not so that other people will see it, but specifically Dave Brown as a form of harassment. Okay, and of course, if you've read my previous articles, the Progressive Yamhill group, which James Wolford and his wife, both members of, okay, while this is going on, while people are collecting information about Dave Brown and other school board directors who are conservatives, collecting personal information about them with the specific purpose of harassing them in their personal lives, up to and including making false accusations of being white supremacists and racists with their employers and with business partners, telling people that they will boycott their businesses if they don't stop doing business with some of the businesses the conservative board members are affiliated with, and also going as far as to try to break up the marriage of school board director Brian Shannon. Yes. And harassing them at churches too, which should be a off-limits place for this type of unethical behavior, but is apparently something that they're all on board with. Now, James Wolford himself did not participate in that thread, but he participated in the group during the same time period. And many of the people who engaged in harassment were not participants in that specific Facebook thread. You see, there's a lot of things that go on other than what's reported on a Facebook thread. The threads, the important thing about the Facebook post, I think, is it gives an insight into how the group was operating. And it shows clear evidence of specific individuals behaving in certain ways. But in my personal opinion, James Wolford's entire campaign is a way for him to publicly lie and berate Dave Brown and other school board conservative counselors in an effort to sort of trick conservative voters here in Newberg into thinking that Dave Brown and others are really bad, terrible people, and using the perceived credibility of James Wolford as a police officer to trick them. That's my personal take on what James Wolford has done. And if that's the case, I think he's a scummy person. Of course, you can see the body camera footage to get that as well. Continuing on, however, with Wolford's statement. In that spirit, I like to be completely transparent. Every single police officer I know has faced some form of complaint at work. Less than 10% of officer complaints are found to be sustained. These complaints come with investigations, sometimes from multiple agencies. That is exactly what happened to me, so he claims. Wolford claims, in 2011, I reported several instances of misconduct by fellow officers in the Warm Springs Tribal Police Department. Instead of investigating my reports, one of which included a supervisor dealing narcotics, I was terminated. I was later cleared after taking a polygraph on my own time. State cleared me for further police work. For the record, officer in question later convicted of the very crime I reported to my superiors. I have not been able to find any evidence that James Wolford reported anybody for misconduct. Part of this, of course, is because I haven't been able to get a public records request fulfilled by that department. It's actually hard to get a hold of them. I don't know if this is true or not, okay? I have no idea if this is true or not. I can simply say that I have no evidence of this being true. Continuing on, however, to what I can prove Wolford is lying about. Wolford says, in 2017 at the Grand Ronde, I believe I'm spelling it correctly, Grand Ronde, Tribal Police Department, I was falsely accused of excessive force and falsifying a police report after I used a taser on a dangerous fugitive. It turns out that this fugitive had significant tribal political ties. I was asked to resign. Afterwards, independent investigation. Going to the next page here. Independent investigation by 4 different agencies, including the Oregon State Police, the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, Police Policy Committee, my current department, and the District Attorney's Office in the county where I currently work, each came to the same conclusion, that I did absolutely nothing wrong, that I was honest and forthright, that I did not use excessive force. This was after extensive review of body camera footage, security footage, and multiple witness interviews from the gathered public who witnessed the event. So, this is a lie. This is a lie. As you can clearly see in the body camera footage, James Wolford approached the suspect. Actually, let's go to the police report that he wrote so I can get some of the facts here. So, the police report that James Wolford wrote is right here, actually. So let's read what Wolford wrote in his report and compare this to what's in the body camera footage. Okay? Wolford writes, on August 13th, 2017, I was on duty in full uniform and clearly displaying a badge. At 17:03 hours, I was dispatched to Spirit Mountain Casino, which is in Grand Ronde, Polk County, Oregon. I'm paraphrasing here. The address is not important. Wolford writes, for report of a male that was trespassing. While en route, dispatch advised that the male was High Pine Eastman, and that he had a felony warrant out of Yamhill County. Lieutenant Hernandez advised he was already out of the county and end of watch, but advised that High Pine's brother, Eagle Eastman, may be around and has assaulted law enforcement in the past. Dispatch further advised that the warrant was confirmed for assault in the 2nd degree and that High Pine had caution flags for assault on a public safety officer. Dispatch also advised he was intoxicated. While en route, I located High Pine's DMV photo and viewed it, as well as the warrant information. I called for a covered unit, and the closest covered unit was Polk County Deputy Lacombe, who was responding from Dallas. I called Spirit Mountain Casino Security, who advised that High Pine was permanently trespassed from the casino and that he was being confrontational with security. I advised dispatch I would be increasing my response and responding without waiting for a cover unit due to casino security being at risk, especially given High Pine's cautions for interfering with police and the warrant being for assault which I know includes secondary assault, which I know includes serious physical injury as an element. So basically, what Wolford here is doing is building a rationale for why he, upon reaching the casino, as can clearly be seen in this body cam security footage, he turned it on right when he got to the casino before he got out of his patrol car. As soon as Wolford got out of his patrol car, he immediately removes his taser from the holster. You can audibly hear this on camera. And then he proceeds to run through the parking lot because the suspect, High Pine, is not in view of him. So Wolford is running through the parking lot with his taser out, which is, first of all, dangerous. And second of all, probably not appropriate use of force.
High Pine right there.
Where?
On the other side. One over.
Hey! Stop! Police! Stop! Get on the ground.
What do you want?
Get on the ground now!
Me?
No, not you. Back up. Go to the side. You on the ground.
do?
Get on the ground now! Move aside! Get on the ground or you will be tased! Back away! Get on the ground now!
First off, Wolford has no evidence that High Pine, during his trespass, has been violent with anybody. Okay? Now, High Pine has been accused. He's got flags and reports for having assaulted an officer in the past, but he has not been convicted of the assault for these charges that Wolford is going to arrest him for. So, High Pine has not had his day in court for whether or not the assault charges are warranted or not. That is, so Wolford has decided, however, to be Judge Dredd, right? He is going to be the judge, the jury, on whether or not these are real allegations. So what Wolford does is he takes his taser out of his holster. He runs across the parking lot, and as soon as he sees him, he tases him. That's basically what happens. You can see this on the body camera footage.
Get on the ground!
Fucking shit! You
Golf one
motherfuckers!
taste, one taste. Get on the ground or you'll be tased too.
Fucking do it, bitch!
Down.
Down! Get down!
Down.
On the ground!
Do it,
Get on the ground and do not move.
Yeah, Wolford says to him, you know, get on the ground, blah, blah, blah. So let's look at this from High Pine's perspective, who, by the way, is intoxicated, and this is known to Wolford. High Pine is there with his mother, leaving the casino. They're in the parking lot. They're not near anybody else, okay? So High Pine's not a danger to the security because the security team is nowhere near him. High Pine doesn't have a weapon. High Pine is not a threat to anybody at the time upon which Wolford arrives. And Wolford has not been told by Casino that High Pine has assaulted anybody. So there's really no reason for Wolford to immediately go to using force like this with you can say a non-lethal weapon, sure, but a taser is not truly a non-lethal weapon because tasers can and have many, many times killed suspects who have weak constitutions, who are intoxicated, who are on drugs, who have weak heart conditions, such as High Pine does indeed have, and which Wolford acknowledges High Pine has. I want to raise a few other very important questions as you look at this video footage. So Wolford claims in his police report that he identified who it was because his photo looked like his DMV photo. You know, this seems kind of a ridiculous statement. Police officers are supposed to clearly identify the suspects before they do things like use force to arrest them. He did not clearly on his own verify that High Pine was in fact the person that he was looking for. He just, you know, basically went off of what the security says. But how does the security know this? These things aren't explained in the report, and who even knows if Wolford knew for absolute certain this really was High Pine? You know, it's just really poor police work. It's just poor police work, period. Okay, this is not how you arrest a non-violent person, even if they have a warrant for a violent thing. You don't just run up to them and tase them if they don't immediately comply with your crazy commands. I mean, they weren't even sure who he was even pointing the taser at. So, what Wolford has done is irresponsible, reckless, and probably should be illegal, to be honest, in my opinion. Does Wolford have the right to arrest High Pine? Yes, Wolford does. Wolford does not have the right to brandish a weapon and demand that give very little time for High Pine to react to being startled. A police officer coming out of nowhere, drawing a weapon on him, when in High Pine's mind, yeah, he probably trespassed, but he's leaving, right? He is not being confrontational. He is leaving the premises. Honestly, why the hell would you do this, Wolford? My assumption, I can only assume, is Wolford has decided that he's going to arrest a suspect that he is fearful of himself. He has decided to arrest High Pine the most safe way that he possibly can, which is to tase him, to take him under control immediately. But that is not ethical, and that's not right. That's not how we treat citizens of the United States of America. I'm sorry to say. That's not the way to do it. Now, if High Pine was being violent, if High Pine was truly resisting arrest, yeah, of course you could then use your less than lethal alternative to shooting him because it's certainly less likely to kill somebody with a taser than it is with a gun, right? And certainly would not recommend a police officer engage in a fist fight with a suspect either, right? But there's no reason for Wolford to have his taser out to begin with, okay? There's no reason for him to tase High Pine. And what's the explanation for why Wolford tases High Pine? Let's read. As I arrived at the casino, security supervisor advised that High Pine was headed towards the valet entrance and the green parking lot. I went to that location. Security pointed out High Pine walking with a female in about the third row of parking. So as you can clearly be seen in the video, very far away from the building. Wolford continues. I recognized High Pine from his DMV photo. I had my body camera activated already. The following happened in substance to the best of my recollection and perception at the time of the incident. I drew my taser and loudly yelled, "Stop police," and get on the ground to High Pine. The female, later identified as High Pine's mother, asked if I meant her or High Pine. I gave verbal commands for her to move to the side and gave verbal commands to High Pine to get on the ground. High Pine refused to get on the ground and was yelling at me. High Pine's mother was yelling at me. I sidestepped to my left while pointing my taser at High Pine while I continued to shout verbal commands to get on the ground now. High Pine continued to refuse to get on the ground and yelled at me. That is not what happened. That's just not what fucking happened. High Pine's mother continued to refuse orders and move aside and kept physically putting herself between my taser and High Pine. I continued to yell verbal commands to stop and get on the ground or you will be tased while pointing my taser at High Pine from about 10 feet away. I observed High Pine put his hands up but point his feet towards me in an aggressive stance, and I believed High Pine was getting ready to assault me. At that time, High Pine's mother was still yelling at me and walking towards me aggressively. Now, as we can clearly see on the body camera footage, what actually happened is that Wolford appeared out of nowhere on two people, and they wouldn't even know if it was a gun or a taser. How is anybody in the moment supposed to distinguish that? For all they know, here's this random guy runs out with a gun and starts screaming at them to get on the ground. High Pine's mother clearly says, which one of us are you talking even to? They don't even know who he's talking to at this point.
Hey, stop, police. Stop, get on the ground.
What do you want?
Get on the ground now.
Me?
No, not you, back up, go to the side.
And then within moments after that, he says, he identifies that he wants High Pine to get on the ground. And High Pine has his hands up the whole time. He's walking around. He clearly looks confused, no doubt because, one, he's drunk, and two, some guy just came out of nowhere on him, pulling out a weapon on him. And then Wolford tases him.
You, on the ground. Get on the ground now! Move aside! Get on the ground or you will be tased! Back away! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground!
Fucking shit! You motherfucker!
And then he threatens to do the same thing to High Pine's mom when she has the natural reaction of losing her crap and being hysterical, which is a normal thing I think just about anybody would do in that situation because it's fucking bizarre.
Taste, one taste. Get on the ground or you'll be tased too.
Fucking do it, bitch!
Down.
Down! Get down! On the ground! Get on the ground and do not move!
Continuing on with what Wolford claims, though. High Pine continued to refuse to get on the ground and yelled at me. High Pine's mother continued to refuse orders to move aside and kept physically putting herself between my taser and High Pine. I continued to yell verbal commands to stop, get on the ground, or you will be tased, while pointing my taser at High Pine from about 10 feet away. I observed High Pine put his hands up, but point his feet towards me in an aggressive stance. And I believed High Pine was getting ready to assault me. So High Pine was going to, just climb through, tackle through his own mother to get to you? That doesn't make a lot of sense, guy. Okay? At that time, High Pine's mother was still yelling at me and walking towards me aggressive. That's not really what was going on. You were circling around them, they're walking away from you. Continuing on, however, Wolford claims, due to the severity of the crime of assault in second degree that High Pine was wanted for, the known factors of High Pine having a history of interfering with police and associated cautions, the fact that High Pine was continually refusing orders to get on the ground, and his aggressive stance and shouts, the fact that High Pine appeared to be larger than me, my cover unit likely still being 5-10 minutes away, as well as High Pine's mother. Love when the pages stick together. High Pine's mother walking towards me while yelling and physically attempting to stop me from taking High Pine into custody. I was afraid I would be assaulted and would have to physically fight both High Pine's mother and High Pine. I quickly sidestepped to my left and pulled the trigger of my taser while it was pointed at High Pine, and it was effective, with the probes and wires hitting High Pine in the upper torso area. I observed High Pine fall back to the ground. High Pine's mother began screaming at me, "You motherfucker," and I had to yell verbal commands at her to get on the ground or you will be tased too. High Pine's mother stood back about 6 feet from me, but continued to yell at me and approach me. I repeatedly had to yell at her to step back, get on the ground, and shut up because she was yelling so loudly that I could not effectively give further instructions to High Pine. So in a situation that Wolford created of hysteria and drama and, you know, a rightful emotional reaction to seeing her son get shot by a police officer, he then decides the best way to handle this is to berate her and you know, threaten to tase her too, and repeatedly say to shut up, shut up, shut up, which is highly unprofessional and clearly shows that he is not in control of the situation that he created to begin with. Continuing on, I let dispatch know I had tased High Pine, asked for medics to respond. Then he says, I told High Pine turn over onto his stomach or he would be tased again, and he complied. I told High Pine to put his hands in the small of his back, told High Pine he was under arrest for a felony warrant for trespass. I began putting handcuffs on High Pine. High Pine continued to yell at me, tried to roll away from me while tensing his body up. I told High Pine to stop resisting or he would be tased again. As I attempted to double lock the handcuffs, High Pine tensed his body up and tried to roll away from me. I told him again to stop resisting. He continued to try and roll away from me. I activated my taser again for a 5-second cycle. High Pine immediately stopped resisting. I was able to secure High Pine to the ground with my knee on his upper back. Clearly, what we can actually see in the video is that while it's true, High Pine turned his body only so that he could look at the police officer who was yelling at his mother and respond to that, Wolford instead uses this as him trying to resist arrest. And then when High Pine clearly insults him, Wolford tases him for that insult.
What'd I do? What'd I do?
We'll be out. Do not move.
What'd I do?
Don't move. It doesn't matter. Shut up.
Yes, it does.
It's not up to you.
What'd I do?
Do not move again or I will give you 2 again.
We're really here to protect and serve.
Shut up. This is not about you.
What'd I do?
You have a
What's
warrant.
he being arrested for?
That's not your business.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's all my business.
Stop moving or I will tase you again. Do not move. I will tase you again.
Fuck you.
Stop moving. Don't move or you'll get it again. Outside ballet. No, shut up or you will get tased again.
No, you shut the fuck. Get off the fuck of my head, dude.
Wolford.
And that is irrefutably the actual reason why Wolford tased him. He tased him because he insulted him. He tased him because he talked back to him. He didn't tase him because he was trying to roll away and escape custody. He tased him because he didn't like what High Pine said to him. That is irrefutably what happened. Okay? So, and of course Wolford also has his foot on High Pine's back after he's tased him twice now. The guy is drunk and complaining about not being able to breathe. Where have we heard this before? So, in conclusion, when I investigate something, when I file public records requests, it is for a good goddamn reason. And you better believe that. Okay? So let's get back to the Newberg Graphic article, which I think is very important. I know this video is long, but it's so freaking important that we cover this in the same video. So, I have here a printout of the Newberg Graphic article that was published March 23rd by Gary Allen. Wolford withdraws from school board race. Gary Allen is an interesting character only in the sense that he has so greatly mismanaged the Newberg Graphic that it has lost any semblance of respect for most of the residents in town, which is the whole reason why I created the Yamhill Advocate in the first place. It's also the reason why many people have unsubscribed from it and are now subscribed to my Patreon, which I definitely encourage people to subscribe to my Patreon for, because unlike Gary Allen, I do real investigative journalism, which can clearly be seen by this ridiculous article that he has written. In this article, Gary Allen basically regurgitates the statement Wolford posted on social media into his article about how Wolford resigned. And the reason Wolford resigned is thus. I have come to the difficult decision, regrettably, that I cannot continue my campaign for the Newberg School Board in this election. Unfortunately, rather than challenge me on facts or campaign positions, people have instead chosen to repeatedly harass me in my personal and professional life. and that has only increased in the recent days and weeks. Since mounting his candidacy in January, Wolford has been the brunt of attacks via social media and other avenues. Ostensibly, the attacks have come from supporters of Brown, the leader of the conservative majority on the school board that has been mired in controversy since July 2021 when it passed a board policy amendment banning Pride and Black Lives Matter symbols from classrooms in the district. The board policy was later ruled unconstitutional by a Yamhill County judge. Yes, Judge Easterday, good, at least has ties to members of Progressive Yamhill who helped organize the lawsuit in the first place and who made a bench decision. It never actually went to a trial where the school district was able to present its defense to the lawsuit. So the school district never got to defend itself in the lawsuit. Important thing that is not mentioned ever by the Newberg Graphic's coverage of the situation. But see, they don't want you to know this stuff. They want you to believe the narrative that they want you to believe so that you will vote the way that they want you to vote. They want you to think that the Newberg School Board is just totally incompetent when in reality they never had a fair process of law in the fucking first place. I'm sorry cursing, but this is really, this makes me very upset. The amount of ridiculous corruption that's going on in Oregon. And that's why I've started this publication, to expose it, and expose it thus. But Gary Allen has a totally different take. He claims leading the charge against Wolford has been Kerry Martell, owner of the alt-right blog Yamhill Advocate. Martell has filed public records requests and complaints against Wolford in his position as a school resource officer in the Sherwood Police Department. His claims, so far unsubstantiated, include that Wolford threatened him and has lied about his blog, specifically about Martell's public records request into Wolford's prior work history and the complaint he filed with the Sherwood Police Department in February. And then he has a quote from me here. He says, "I do not believe James Wolford is the kind of person who should be a police officer, nor should he be any public official in any capacity," Martell said a recent Facebook post. Do you disagree with my assessment of Wolford? If you believe that he should be a police officer, by all means, tell me in the comments to this video if you agree with me or not. I would love to hear your justification for why I'm wrong.
No, shut up, or you will get tased again.
No, you get off the fuck of my head, dude.
Wolford.
As for unsubstantiated, I think the first part of this video shows that everything I said was true. So, most importantly, however, Gary Allen frames me as an alt-right blogger, which is a factually untrue statement and practically defamatory, if you really think about it, since, first of all, I'm not anything related to alt-right. I'm not a member of any type of extremist group whatso-fucking-ever. I'm not in support of things like Proud Boys. I don't believe in QAnon. I'm not part of the Christian right because I'm not a Christian. I'm atheist. I'm actually a former Democrat voter who's now independent because I want to be independent of all of the madness, okay? I am bringing you the actual truth from probably one of the least biased sources you could possibly get. I am a truly politically centrist atheist who doesn't have a dog in any of these fights. I don't benefit financially from anybody winning elections. I'm literally a guy who came back to my hometown and saw the crazy insanity that was going on in my hometown, who was being disparaged in the Newberg fucking Graphic, a once widely respected newspaper that I grew up reading articles in, claiming that it's full of white supremacists and, everybody in town who's conservative is a terrible person, which is just not true. The majority of people in town are conservative. They're not all bad. The vast majority are good. But that's not what's going on with the Newberg Graphic. Newberg Graphic has been weaponized into I don't even know what to call it. It sure as shit is not a newspaper, okay? Newspapers publish truth regardless of what the truth is. And a real journalist, which Gary Allen very obviously is not, would have done some due diligence to verify whether or not the statements Wolford was making were even true before he fucking published them. He didn't do that. And knowing that I, and my long track record of having irrefutable concrete evidence for the claims that I make about people on my publication, on my social media, knowing that I have this track record, You would think Gary Allen would file his own public records requests concerning Wolford's history, that he'd do some freaking research into Wolford's history, since I've done the research. But instead, he tries to actually convince the residents of Newberg using a newspaper that he did not create and that he had nothing to do with establishing the legacy of. He tries to use its credibility to paint me as an alt-right conspiracy theorist who makes unsubstantiated claims about people. That is what the Newberg Graphic is doing. The Newberg Graphic is under the stewardship of Gary Allen, is lying to the residents of Newberg. He thinks that you're stupid. He doesn't like you. He hates you. Why the hell would anybody be still subscribed to the Newberg Graphic? Why would you be giving your money to somebody who thinks that you're so stupid that you would believe this nonsense? Gary Allen hates you. I don't hate you. You should give your money to me. Give your money to the Yamhill Advocate so I can hire real journalists to do real investigative work and bring you the actual truth. That's myself for the Yamhill Advocate. That's my defense against these ridiculous accusations made against me personally for doing the job that Gary Allen is not doing and will never do, which is actually research the stories that they write and not just regurgitate a bunch of press releases that come from pathological liars in Progressive Yamhill, aka the Yamhill County Democrat Party. Because all of the leaders of Progressive Yamhill are the same leaders of the Yamhill County Democrat Party. Officers, PCPs, I've proven that. That is why nobody sued me for defamation, because it's a fact. It's completely insane what Wolford did, and it's irresponsible, and that type of irresponsibility, this is the really important thing. Somebody who is still, all these years later, still lying about what actually happened, about their own responsibility, their own misjudgment, who is still lying about this and trying to point the finger at other people, that's not a person who feels remorse for what they've done. That's not a person who's taken steps to try to correct that behavior, and therefore, unequivocally, I can say that James Wolford should not be a police officer. He should not. He's not the caliber of person who should be entrusted with the ability to just run up and tase somebody or shoot somebody or whatever it is. He falsified his police report. There's no other way to look at what he wrote and what actually transpired in the body camera footage than to say that he was not being fully honest and transparent in the record. And by the way, he looked at his body camera footage before he wrote his report. If you can actually believe the ridiculousness of this person, to believe that he would get away scot-free with doing this. And it's kind of sad, actually. It's sad that he had to come onto my radar because he's running in his school board election for this truth to come to light, right? Because the Trust and Safety Board that was responsible for decertifying people like Wolford clearly are not responsible enough for the power that they possess, that they're entrusted with. They didn't do their job and decertify his ass. So, nothing can be done with this complaint now, unfortunately, but people should know. People should know who are voting in this election, since his name is still on the ballot, and there's this insane campaign called James Anyway being done by the Progressive Yamhill people, which is the most bizarre thing you could possibly think of, right? Like, let's think about this. This is a group of people who claim to be totally against police brutality. They're in the defund the police movement, which I'm not in, by the way. They're totally anti-police, and they've endorsed a police officer with a history of brutality. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen from this Progressive Yamhill group. It's absolutely insane, especially because they've actually formed a Facebook group. This is true. They formed an actual Facebook group, these Progressive Yamhill nutters, to harass me in my personal private business, which is a bodybuilding gym here in Newberg, to file frivolous complaints about the size of my flags and signage, to try to get me, in trouble with the city in retaliation for James Wolford saying that he was going to drop out of the race, that he didn't want to run anymore. Well, now you know why James Wolford didn't want to run anymore. Once he realized that I actually had this information, that he learned that I had this information, he dropped out of the race. Because he knows what he did. He knows what the body camera footage shows. He knows that he lied on his report. He knows that he's everything that I'm accusing him of. And this is some sort of desperate attempt to try to make it seem like I'm harassing him. Like I'm the bad guy. I'm not the one who ran up and tased some dude without even checking to see if it's the right freaking person that I'm supposed to be arresting. I'm not the person who tased somebody because he said something I didn't like to him. Not because he was resisting arrest, which he was not, because he told you to fuck off. That's the reason why you tased him, Wolford. And that's why you are not the type of a person who should be entrusted with the power to tase anybody. Okay? And I'm speaking as a former U.S. Army infantryman. I know all about rules of engagement and force when it comes to the military. And what you did, man, if you did that shit in the military, you would be dishonorably discharged. And you know that. As a former veteran yourself of the Coast Guard, you should know that fully well, that is not an appropriate usage of force. There's not a military soldier on this planet who is going to agree with what you did in that body camera footage. And you know this. That's why he dropped out of the race. It's the real reason why he dropped out of the race. And the fact that the progressives did zero due diligence, I'm assuming at least, we have to give these people the benefit of the doubt that they didn't do any due diligence into this person that they were championing to replace Dave Brown with. That they said that was superior, morally superior. He was the best guy that they could come up with to go against Dave Brown. They did no due diligence into him, obviously, right? Into whether or not he really was the things that he said, which is insane because, again, they're the anti-police group, which leads me to only one possible conclusion that makes any at all sense about the situation. The conclusion is thus. Progressives, Yamhill County Democrat Party, they do not truly, genuinely believe the rhetoric that they say. They don't truly believe the ideology that they say. They'll say anything as long as it makes them feel that they can win elections and gain control over municipals. They can win city councils, they can win school boards, they can gain power. That's what they're actually interested in, is power. That's why they organize harassment campaigns, try to pressure and harass and intimidate people. It's about power, okay? That's why they enrich themselves using the city and other government agencies as their personal piggy banks to funnel money into nonprofits that they control even while they're sitting on the city councils of those things, because it's about power, people. That's what it's about. It's not about a moral high road. They don't believe their own ideology. They endorsed James Wolford as a candidate. They don't care if he's done anything. They didn't even look. James Wolford said the right things, and that was good enough for them. Because saying the right things is all that matters to be part of their little club. They're not a club of high integrity people. They're a club of scumbags. They don't want anybody investigating whether or not the things that they say are actually true. They don't want anybody in their group to do it. They sure as hell don't want me to do it, or you to do it. They just want you to listen and believe with your feelings that what they say is true. And then vote for them so they can enrich themselves. So they can indoctrinate children in all kinds of crazy ideas so that you'll vote for them so that they'll continue to enrich themselves. That is what the Democrat Party in the state of Oregon has become. It is mockery of everything that should represent America and values. It is a mockery of what the Democrat Party has historically been. And I'm ashamed to say that I ever voted for any Democrat in the past 20 years. I'm ashamed of that. And you should be too. This is completely unacceptable behavior. And that it needs to end. And it ends with people deciding to stop supporting this stuff, to start actually paying attention to the truth, stop listening to the Newberg Graphics and the Oregonians of the world at face value, demand that they show you irrefutable, concrete evidence for the accusations and claims. Stop believing things at face value. Stop believing it because you think that you trust somebody. You can't trust people who say things. You can only trust your eyeballs is what you can trust. See the evidence for yourself before you believe outlandish, ridiculous things being said about other people. I show concrete evidence. I do actual, legitimate, investigative journalistic work. That's why you should listen to me. Not because I'm a nice person, not because I'm handsome and you know, I'm a handsome guy, not because I speak well, not because I come across as intellectual. It's because I actually have evidence to support the claims that I am making. And that evidence is real. It's not just some bullshit somebody said on the internet. So, there are going to be more articles, and a lot of this information is going to be an article as well. But I'll put this video out here because I feel video is probably the most informative thing for people to see. I'll also be publishing the entire body camera footage of Wolford's encounter with Hypine, so people can see that, see the full transparency. Okay? Welcome to the Yam Hill Advocate. If this is your first contact with me and my publication. Hope to bring you some more truth here shortly.